Hi guys, back with another video. So this video is off topic from the Nazaia Harris case, but this video is going to be about the DC plane crash, the military plane that crashed into the civilians plane coming from another state or whatever. Like it was a few people on there from ice skating competitions and other people just traveling back home. Now this video I'm gonna play, you're gonna have to watch. It's the plane crash. It's the Black Hawk military plane coming from the left side. It's kind of a small craft, but you will see the light on it. And it's heading towards the DC plane. The civilian plane is the bigger one that's facing, the light is facing towards us as we watch the video. This looks intentional. Also, I have an audio of them inside the planes telling the Black Hawk to basically turn around and it needs to land. This Black Hawk looks like it went directly straight for this civilian aircraft. This is so sad. Like, this is so sad. And nobody has no answers. Nobody knows what happened. All I can say is it's just a tragedy. But you guys watch these videos that I have, and I want you guys to comment down below. Now, it may have not been an accident, but they say that it was a military training course that they were doing. But my thought about that is, if you're training, why not do it in a daytime or do it somewhere in a private area where no civilians are like regularly flying? Like, that don't make sense to me. But you guys watch.
You could see that flash of light beneath it, and that is what we're focusing on. Military helicopter and a passenger flight right here. Moment of impact in 3, 2, there. And you know what's amazing at a time like this, you know, a city that's always on the move, you have people driving through, driving in and out of D.C. over towards Virginia, and you see this happen. You got to wonder.
American 3130, go around, turn left end, 250, Clementine, 3000.
3000, heading, go around, 3000.
Blackjack 3, can you return to base? What? Blackjack 3, proceed directly to Glebe. I need you to land. I need you to land immediately. Can you go to Dulles for a few minutes? Also 7, proceed due westbound, contact Dulles Tower 120.1. Muscle 13, can you go to Baltimore?
Oh, did you see that?
472. American 3130, go around, turn left end, 250, Clementine, 3000.
3000, heading, go around, 3000.
Blackjack 3, can you return to base?
It was like 64 people that passed away in this incident. The pictures that I have showing are a collage of some of them that I came across. And then I have, like, it's so many of them. The ones that I get, I'm going to make collages of them. But when I was just listening to this recording again, they were telling the Blackjack to land, which is military aircraft. But it's so crazy because the civilian aircraft plane was getting ready to land too. So I don't understand how they got that confused, because they are supposed to be able to see other planes when they're in the vicinity of each other on each plane. So why would the military tell the Blackjack military aircraft to land at the same time as they seeing that this other plane is trying to land? This is crazy, but I got some more news clippings for you guys. I want you guys to comment what you guys think about this, because I know you guys probably have been seeing it going around on social media, but I wanted to bring this to you guys because, like I said, my channel is going to be about things that I want to talk about. It's about any and everything, literally. Like, it's not based on just one certain thing or area. But this is sad. I'm gonna keep playing videos, guys. Stay with me.
Based on what we currently know, it simply doesn't make sense. The technology was there, the communication appears to have been there, and yet, last night, about 9 o'clock, A passenger jet on final approach to Reagan National Airport and a military helicopter collided. 64 passengers aboard that commercial airliner and 3 members of that Army Black Hawk helicopter crew perished and are presumed dead. There's a recovery effort going on in the Potomac. We have video of the moment of that impact captured. You may see it momentarily. That recovery effort, those stills you see on the screen right now, is ongoing in the Potomac River. That is dangerous, hard work. The water is not icy, but it is still very cold. And an investigation has commenced, civilian and military, to find out exactly what happened and quite possibly propose future remedies. Earlier today, President Trump addressed this tragedy and later, at his own acknowledgement, offered without any evidence suggestions that past administrations' diversity, equity, and inclusion programs might have somehow been to blame.
As one nation, we grieve for every precious soul that has been taken from us, but we'll find out how this disaster occurred and we'll ensure that nothing like this ever happens again. My administration will set the highest possible bar for aviation safety. We have to have our smartest people. It doesn't matter what they look like, how they speak, who they are. It matters intellect, talent.
The business of government continued on Capitol Hill. 3 Trump administration picks participated in confirmation hearings. Kash Patel is FBI director. Tulsi Gabbard is the head of National Intelligence, and Health and Human Services Secretary nominee Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We will get to those confirmation proceedings later in the show. We will start now with Skyler Henry, who comes to us from Reagan National Airport. Skyler?
Major, good evening to you. Well, to summarize, the NTSB has indicated that their investigation will be 3 things: thorough, steady, and meticulous. They say that this is the first full day that they are able to get a full grasp on exactly what happened last night, saying that crews are still in the recovery process trying to get as many bodies as possible. Clearly, they have been working for hours in this process, in this investigation, but they say that they're trying to do as much as they can, especially before nightfall, where they will continue to then work to try to figure out exactly what happened here. Remember, there is still wreckage here as well, that because of the Potomac is moving down the river as well. We've seen some closures at some of the ports along the area, as well as crews look to do their work. After hearing from the NTSB, they also said that there will be several groups in charge of this investigation, everything from structure groups looking to figure out impact angles and pre-impact courses and what the altitude of both those aircraft would exactly be. There will also be a systems group looking at air traffic control systems, reviewing the radar, and also looking about the communications that happened between air traffic control and the pilots on board those aircraft. And also they said that they will be looking at human performance as well. That will assess exactly what was going on, who said what, how they will do everything that they need to in order to get to the bottom of this investigation. They said that they have yet to find the flight data recorder. The NTSB chair indicated that that is still underwater. They have also yet to recover the so-called black boxes on either of those aircraft as well. Now, one thing that we should point out, that earlier today in that White House press briefing, we heard from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who indicated that a mistake was made last night. Take a listen to this sound. Based off of you all's initial investigations and preliminary findings, have you all been able to tell whether this was human error or mechanical failure?
The question was, is there been human error or mechanical failure? We don't know what we know just yet. We do not know enough facts to be able to rule in or out human factor, mechanical factors. That is part of the NTSB investigative process.
Now, the NTSB has indicated that they expect at least their preliminary findings to come out within the next 30 days. Something else we should point out, Major, is that they say that they are still very much in the briefing families portion of this process, as well as families are still making their way to Washington, D.C. and Reagan National Airport, some of whom have yet to be notified of the fact that their loved ones were on board these aircraft as well. They say that they are looking to support them as much as possible. There is contact information available, therapy hotlines, all sorts of measures to try to wrap their arms around these families who are going through so much in this trying time as this investigation is in its early stages.
Skylar Henry at Reagan National Airport. Thank you. Eleanor Watson now joins us from the Pentagon. Ellie, what can you tell us about what the military is saying about this mission, the flight of the helicopter, and the experience level and the routine or non-routine nature of the flight itself?
Yeah, Major, what we're learning, first of all, is that one of the bodies has been recovered. The two other bodies, the body of the pilot and the co-pilot, are still trapped in the helicopter in the Potomac. Recovery operations are underway. Those 3 soldiers were on an Army Black Hawk when it collided last night with the passenger plane. This Black Hawk was on a routine training flight. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that it was an annual evaluation of a nighttime flight. Now, what is so concerning about what happened last night is that we regularly see military helicopters on the Potomac. They're flying nightly, daily. The route that this helicopter was on last night was described as a fairly easy corridor, and Army officials have said that the crew on board that Black Hawk was a very experienced crew. One pilot had 1,000 flight hours. The other pilot had 500 flight hours. So Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says the Army is looking into this, that this was pretty much routine, but tragically a mistake happened last night.
And Ellie, was anything mentioned either by the Secretary or other officials at the Pentagon about suspending similar helicopter flights in the aftermath of this, pending some sort of review, or are they going to continue to go on?
So Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that the battalion that this particular Black Hawk came from, the 12th Aviation Battalion out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia, will be on a 48-hour pause as this investigation gets going. And the Army will certainly look at other potential safety briefings that they can give about this incident as we learn more. I do want to note I reached out to the Army equivalent of the NTSB that we've been hearing from all day. The Army equivalent gave us some stats about aviation mishaps. They call them mishaps over the past few years. And what is concerning is that fiscal year 2024, so last year, was the highest number of aircraft incidents with fatalities since 2014. So over a 10-year period, last year was the second highest. I mention that not because not every incident was a Black Hawk, but I mention it to bring up what the Army is concerned about with their safety and training.
Eleanor Watson at the Pentagon, thank you very much. Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen joins us now. Senator, it's good to see you. This is a tragedy for the nation, but it is acutely one for the District of Columbia, Virginia, and Maryland. You represent Maryland in the Senate. First thing I want to ask you is, we have confirmed earlier in New York Times reporting that in the control tower last evening, one control tower person was tasked with monitoring the movement of helicopters and commercial aviation. Is that concerning to you?
Well, Major, it's good to be with you. I've seen those reports, and there is a situation about the staffing levels, not just at Reagan National, but FAA staffing levels around the country. So clearly that will be an issue that the NTSB has to look into.
What are you most curious about as you evaluate what you have been told by aviation officials, what you have learned independently, and what your constituents are no doubt seeing in newspaper accounts and on social media? What is most on your mind?
Well, first, as you said, this has got a big local impact. There are people from around the country who've been killed in this crash, including Marylanders, and our hearts go out to everybody who lost loved ones. People, of course, have questions. Something clearly went wrong, right? This was an avoidable accident. I do think it's important not to jump to conclusions before the NTSB does its work. And they're beginning to do that, as you say. you reported. They haven't recovered yet the recorders. They haven't recovered the flight data. But they need to be very transparent about their work and move just as fast as possible to maintain public confidence.
I'm sure you're aware, Senator, of what President Trump said after offering consoling words for the country. He, as was put to questions later, acknowledged he had no evidence, but nevertheless suggested that somehow federal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs might have been to blame for this. Your reaction?
Major, I actually was watching that news conference, and I was absolutely appalled that the President of the United States would make these reckless, unsubstantiated claims in the middle of this national tragedy, to politicize this national tragedy. And I think he owes an apology to every family who lost loved ones on that airplane. I think he owes an apology to the country, because he admitted, as you said, he had no basis for making these claims. And he was in the room with the head of the NTSB that's supposed to be conducting an independent investigation, and yet making these reckless, grotesque claims. I was just appalled that the president would use the moment for political purposes.
Let's talk about Reagan National. As I understand it, it had a theoretical capacity of 15 million flights a year. The current capacity is about 20 million flights. Again, as I understand it, I may have those numbers wrong. Feel free to correct me. Is it running at a higher capacity than you believe is recommended? What is your level of concern about what those associated with Reagan National have to do to achieve maximum safety?
So with respect to this particular collision, we obviously have to await the facts, but I have had an ongoing concern about the congestion at Reagan National Airport. In fact, just last year, Senators Kaine and Warner from Virginia and myself opposed the plan to bring more flights into Reagan National, because it is already the most congested airport in the country. Right now, the amount of time planes have to spend hovering over Reagan National before landing is the longest wait time in the country. So beyond this particular collision, I do have a concern about the safety issues regarding the congestion, and that's why we opposed the idea of bringing even more flights and more planes into this very congested airspace.
Very quickly, Senator, do you think that decision to bring more planes in will be now revisited?
I think that we need to take another look at all these safety issues. You know, whether or not that's the cause of this particular collision, that's up to the NTSB. But hopefully this will remind everybody that our #1 priority has to be the safety of the flying public, and we should look at everything in the context of this terrible tragedy.
Maryland Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some of them members of the elite figure skating community, and some have Ohio ties. 19 Data journalist Jeff Slauson is here with the most up-to-date information.
Horrific situation that unplayed there. Now we are starting to get a clearer picture as to actually who was involved in this. You're going to see multiple people that we're going to be showing you here, and like unfortunately this young woman here passed away. They died in this scenario. So let's break down the numbers from all of these victims here. So as Chris mentioned, 64 people were on that plane. That was 4 crew members, 60 passengers. In the helicopter, there were 3 people. Now, as of right now, we're hovering around 28 to 30 bodies that have been recovered. And it's a very difficult process because they need to figure out who exactly this person was and then notify the family as well. So what we do know is that at least 14 of the people that were on this plane were from the figure skating community. They're actually at an event that was in Wichita, Kansas, which held is holding the world championships, and they're all younger, lower level, right? Think 17 and below. We do know for a fact now that 2 of them were skaters, aged 16 and 13. 2 parents and 2 coaches were with them as well. In addition to that, 4 people on that plane were Maryland Labor Union workers, many of them now going to have colleagues helping with the wreckage recovery, in this incident, because this is something that they would work on. 26-year-old who had newly moved to D.C., and we now know 2 people from Ohio, one that went to Cedarville University, it was a student there, and another that was a Cincinnati woman as well. So let's go through, before we get to those that are here in the state of Ohio, the athletes that we have confirmed at this point. Gina Hahn was the athlete that was the figure skater there. Her mom, Jin Hahn, was on board there. Spencer Lane and his mom, Christine Lane, were there. And then at the bottom, this was a figure skating couple that were both coaches for the figure skaters. They originally were from Russia, moved eventually to the United States, and became coaches that were beloved in the skating community. Now we're going to be mentioning these 2 people in here. This is one, and the second one you had seen earlier. Both of them were killed in this, both having Ohio ties and from the Ohio area. Grace Maxwell, that was the last face you saw, a mechanical engineering major. She was very dedicated, according to her advisor, Dr. Tim Norman, saying Grace is a quiet person with a keen interest in helping others through engineering. And then this person here as well, Elizabeth Ann Keys, 33 years old, from Cincinnati. Her mother telling our sister station WKRC, basically Cincinnati, that they cannot express what they are feeling right now. Bitsy was the name that they called her, will be missed. We were all filled with the unbearable sorrow and despair at their loss. Still many souls that need to be determined and talk to their families. So we're of course going to update you if we learn anything more, but now we do know of the 60+ people that died in this, 2 of them from the Ohio area, causing a massive tragedy for these families.
Yes, Sarah Lauren, good evening. It's good to hear from you tonight from Reagan National Airport. Tonight, police boats are in the water of the Potomac behind me. Every now and again, you'll see some blue lights pass by. Those are the police boats, and what they're doing is they're protecting the wreckage that is still in the icy water tonight. There's the fuselage. There's also that Black Hawk helicopter there. Now, they spent the day recovering bodies out of the Potomac River, while NTSB investigators were searching for clues as to how this mid-air collision happened. Tonight, NTSB investigators are analyzing data from the black box that was on American Eagle Flight 5342. It was recovered by dive teams late Thursday afternoon. It may hold clues as to why the aircraft flying from Wichita, Kansas to Reagan National Airport with 64 on board collided mid-air with an Army Black Hawk helicopter that was on a training mission. Officials say 3 soldiers were on board, and all 67 are presumed dead.
We will look at the aircraft, we will look at the helicopter, we will look at the environment in which they were operating in.
Video shows the Black Hawk slam into the jet around 8:45 Wednesday night as the plane was landing on runway 33 at Reagan National. Army officials say the experienced chopper pilot was on a nighttime qualification flight with an instructor and may have been using night vision goggles. Just one air traffic controller was in charge of both helicopters and planes last night, which routinely happens. Audio reveals the chopper pilot saw the aircraft approaching.
X25, 0G in flight. This club has an aircraft in flight precision separation.
While NTSB investigators comb over the wreckage, we're starting to learn more about the victims killed here. Among them, 12-year-old Brielle Byer and her mother, Justina Byer. They were flying back to Virginia. Andy Byer talked about the agony of waiting at the airport along with his 6-year-old son.
I missed them so much while they were gone, and so we were just talking about, getting together and what we were going to do, this weekend.
They were coming back from a figure skating camp in Wichita, Kansas. Tonight, the governor there calling for answers.
These families need answers to what happened here.
Now, Steve, Lauren, they paused the recovery efforts late this afternoon after recovering about 40 bodies from the waters behind me. They're expecting that to pick up again tomorrow. But to recover the remaining bodies, they're going to have to move the fuselage and that Black Hawk helicopter. So we'll have to see some heavy equipment coming in to do that kind of maneuver. Also, runway 33, that's the runway where the plane was coming in for a landing. That will remain closed while the rest of Reagan National is open. We're live tonight at Reagan National Airport. John Paul, ABC 11 Eyewitness News.
To WTTG, we're now taking over to show you this. This is video from the Kennedy Center camera, and you see that explosion right there. That is the moment when this small plane apparently crashed into a helicopter. You see a fireball, and then, Marla, we see that plane head down towards the Potomac River.
Oh, what an image there. And according to our sister station in D.C., WTTG, that in fact is confirmed that a small aircraft collided with a helicopter. They were hearing that it is not a D.C. police helicopter, and colleagues on the ground